Okay, so let's kind of, I'm going to go on to the next slide. So I'm going to go over what mortgage forbearance is. I just going to do a kind of brief pros and cons. And the reason I'm going through this one is because we're in this pandemic that we're in right now. Some landlords are contemplating, okay, some of my tenants aren't paying. Do I take the forbearance? Do I pay the shortfall? Like I have one out of the 2 tenants paying. So they get some income. And then do I keep this or do I try to sell it? And if they go to sell it, well, everyone here has just spoken about wanting to purchase, right? And so, and a lot of, I mean, I'm meeting a lot of people that are just like rubbing their hands and licking their lips. Are like, yeah, I'm going to get a deal. I'm like, well, like, I actually think that, yeah, there are some deals to be had. This is Los Angeles. I'm speaking about Los Angeles specifically. We're not going to get this like fire sale where it's going to be, you know, 70 cents on the dollar. So it was worth $1 last year. It's worth 70 cents this year. Or I am talking to people that are like expecting a 50% discount. I'm like, look, there are people with very deep pockets in this city. They'll scoop it up all cash. They'll buy it for 92 cents on the dollar. So why would someone want to sell it for 70 cents on the dollar? So just being like really, really clear, like crystal clear that the discounting is very minimal, if anything, and all of us here are probably going to be using a loan. So a loan does not make you eligible for much of any sort of this wave a bunch of cash around and then you'll get a house and then you'll get a duplex or a triplex. So mortgage forbearance is starting to affect some of the landlords that are contemplating whether they sell and then just rid themselves of this problem. There aren't very many landlord programs in the city and county of Los Angeles that are helping landlords. They're definitely helping renters. They're not helping landlords. They're actually making it harder on landlords. And I'll go through that in a minute. So here's some of the pros. You can stop making payments for a set period of time. There's no mortgage payments for up to 6 months. Most of the time it's 3 months are given, and then they case by case basis, they give you more time up to 6 months. You can also reduce your payment if you need to, and then you make it up in the arrears. When you make it up in the arrears, it means you may, on the 4th month, if you got your 3 months, all the money is due. So I say to myself, well, this is a silly program. If you go 3 months without having to pay, but then all of it's due the 4th month, it's not like suddenly your tenants all paid you your back rent and you had all this money and now you're just going to pay the bank. So many times now you have to apply and push and stay on your bank to then put it in the arrears, which means then you put the payments all the way to the like 30-year plus 1 month, 30-year 2 month. It's the extra payments at the end. It could lower your in the short term, and you can lower your payments, but then you have a balloon later. I just realized that the notes here are repeated above, so we're going to the next slide. The cons. So I actually think there are more cons than there are pros, and this is why. As a real estate investor, you don't want a forbearance on your record. It affects your ability to get another loan in the future. It affects your credit, and it affects pretty much any opportunities you want to have when it comes to lending in the future, because you now have sort of like a little bit of like a red X on your file, like, oh, this person took forbearance, right? It's a program, but all the ramifications for taking it limit you for purchasing in the future. You have to catch up on all your payments, then you have to show extra reserve when you buy a property, and you have to be able to make up whatever you owe. So I don't love that. And then it does extend the life of the loan, which for 3 months, it's not too big of a deal. But again, I'm not a proponent as a real estate agent and an investor. I'm not a proponent of forbearance. I feel like it's a little hokey for 3 months. Like 3 months, what is someone going to do for 3 months? It can't make it up. It feels too short-sighted. If you really, really need it, okay, take it. But you gotta hope you can put the payments in the rear. As a landlord here, if you can put the payments in the rear, all the better. But again, you still have tenants that are not paying. And the challenge we have now is renters do have some assistance in the city, but there's an eviction freeze. Nobody is getting evicted in the city or the county, period. You don't pay rent. I'll give you some extreme examples of tenants. Like, you're making methamphetamines in the garage, the police have to come, they arrest the tenants, and it's like, but 2 of the tenants got left there because, like, you know, oh, they were, quote, they weren't part of this drug making operation. Well, they don't have to pay rent, and you have big problems on your hands. I'm not suggesting every landlord is dealing with this, but I'm more saying that it doesn't matter what the circumstances are. It could be criminal, and you don't have the right to evict. So that's why a lot of landlords right now are like, I'm thinking I need to get out. And if I get out, when you get in, like you as real estate investors and very interested in getting into the market here, you are going to potentially inherit problems that you would not have inherited 1 year ago. And then you might say to yourself, well, I want a discount for that. If nobody else wants the deal, then yeah, maybe you'll get a discount. But right now we have a shortage of inventory across the board in this county and city. So I'm seeing a lot of things go into multiple offers. And it's only the multi-units with the biggest problems that are sitting. And the biggest problems would be not paying. The rent is way too low, like a 2-bedroom in Venice for $1,200. I'm like, I want to pay $1,200 for a 2-bedroom in Venice. And they've been paying that for 18 years. So these are challenges you will absolutely have when you purchase in this city. Oh, I'm missing, oh, okay. So I'm missing the slide that says that the eviction freeze until September 30th. So yeah, no evictions are happening in this county and city for
and
that
long. Keeps getting extended.
Yes, exactly. So I think it's been extended 3 times. I think it's been extended 3 times since the pandemic, but I don't know if anyone noticed this, but before the pandemic, we were in an eviction freeze for different reasons. So we've been kind of on pretty much an eviction freeze for nearly 12 months. Because last summer they put an eviction freeze in place. For example, like that was the city of LA, and then city of Inglewood followed suit, and then a couple other cities followed suit because people were kicking out their tenants so that they could increase the rents, and because they were worried about Costa-Hawkins, which was on the 2018 ballot, right? Costa-Hawkins pretty much said you cannot raise the rent for any condo, single family, or multi-unit in the state of California. If they leave, you can only raise it the price of inflation. So that $1,200 example of the 2-bedroom in Venice, which is ridiculously low, doesn't matter where you're living, even if you're living in the farthest easternmost part of Venice, and it's the most rundown 2-bedroom, you could charge when that person leaves, Costa-Hawkins would then say you can charge $1,200 plus your 4% increase on rent. No, everybody wants to kick out the tenant so they can bring the rent up to $3,000, which is what it's supposed to be for 2020. But Costa-Hawkins would have neutralized that to $1,200 plus the inflation amount, which is like 4% on $1,200 is not a big rent increase. That would have decimated a lot of landlords selling, because it would have just dropped the prices. Nobody will buy that. No one will buy that duplex when there's like when they know that person, even if they kicked them out, they can't raise the rent. So just keep that in mind when you think about investing. And you might say to yourself, like, why would anyone want to invest in Los Angeles when you can invest in Fresno, California? It's so much better. Like, $350,000 buys me a duplex, and or go farther afield. I've been looking at St. Louis. I'm like, oh wow, St. Louis You can buy a fourplex for $475,000. You can't buy that here. But those are, and I'm just going to touch on long distance investing. Anywhere outside of a big city like Los Angeles and the other big cities across the United States, you're really looking at cash flow. It's a cash flow option. So you may buy it for $475,000 in St. Louis, or I might buy it for $475,000 in St. Louis, and the 4 tenants are paying all the mortgage, and I'm getting cash flow. I might be getting $800 or $900 a month in cash flow after everything is paid. But in 5 years, that property is worth $520,000. Like, it hasn't appreciated very much. In this market, it's only appreciation. You're probably not going to cash flow day one. So your home, you purchase something for, you're not going to buy it for $475,000, but an equivalent I have a 4-unit that I purchased last year, bought it for $980,000. I put a lot of work into it. I put $120,000 worth of work, and then I got it to $1.45 million. So the appreciation in 9 months was almost $470,000. So that's a lot of appreciation in 9 months. And thankfully, I was able to turn over the tenants. So then now I'm cash flowing. If I could not turn over the tenants, I would actually be still negative cash flowing now. So Los Angeles is an appreciation game. And that as long as you you accept that that's the play here, then you will ride a very nice wave up when you're ready to sell. So a lot of you had spoke about, like, I want the life, the landlord life, which is collecting rents, cash flowing. I don't have to work, fix toilet once in a while, make sure, the tenants are getting along with one another. And yeah, so those type of things, yes, you can get there. In Los Angeles, it's going to take you a little longer. If you make commitments to other cities in the United States, which with much lower costs of entry and cash flow, you're not going to get appreciation. So, I mean, how many fourplexes do you have to own if you're making $800 a month cash monthly? How many of those do you have to own so you can get the lifestyle you want, right? So if you want to be making $4,000 a month passive, you got to own 5 of those, right? So it's a multiplier of that. And so I break this down for everybody. I work with, because I personally invest, I usually, a lot of clients come to me, even other real estate agents come to me and they want to run something by me, right? I get a lot of my colleagues in the business, can I run this by you? And I'm like, okay. So I think that's like, they see me as somebody who's like, okay, run me the numbers. Because when I work with a client, I teach you how I invest, and then I show you my spreadsheets, I show you my analytics, because I'm like, now you can look at every deal and you toss it into the analytics, because I use the analytics to determine if it's a good deal, whether I'm looking in Kentucky or I'm looking in Inglewood. So I have not bought anything out of state in a while. So with all that said, that's kind of like a big overview of like landlords and what I think is going to be more and more property coming to market, because landlords are like, I'm done with these people that only half my tenants are paying, right? And they're like, this is for the birds. Somebody else can have this problem. And then that's where you get, I always say, that's where you get to add the value. It's where you get to sort of fix the problems and then add the value. If you don't fix the problems, if you expect the seller to fix the problems and you get a clean slate on it, then there'd be so many other people at the table. I always look for the deal where I get to fix the problems, but I want a little bit of a discount for fixing the problems. And if I don't get a discount in fixing the problems, I have to know exactly what the problems are so I know how much it costs me. So I mitigate those up front. Okay, so any questions? And every second, they're supposed to have all the I forgot to put in the titles of each of my next Thursday landlord investing workshops. So I'll put that in a follow-up email to you all.